Hi guys, welcome to Antique Sprinklers. Today we're talking about an old Skinner rotary sprinkler. Skinner was a company that was started in Troy, Ohio, which I believe is fairly close to Cincinnati. And it was started by a farmer named Charles Skinner. And he invented a method of overhead irrigation that was a lot like holes drilled in an elevated piece of pipe at a specific spacing. And later they even added motors and gears to that setup so that it would rotate back and forth. And it was really revolutionary for the time. The Skinner system did very well, but he decided to stick with farming, and he sold his company to a guy named Walter Coles around 1908, I believe. So Skinner was a very, very early player. And you might notice for this particular sprinkler, it's on a very substantial roller base. This thing is fairly heavy. It has this weighted support here that if you loosen this nut there, you can slide it closer to the sprinkler or further back depending on the needs of the terrain and the sprinkler you're using. And it rolls real nice for something that's fairly old. The sprinkler itself, I couldn't find anything on this sprinkler, any information whatsoever. This the range nozzle here is aftermarket. It was invented in the 1920s and is adjustable in terms of flow. But originally this guy would have had just a straight piece of brass tubing coming out of it with a nozzle, a fixed nozzle on the end of it. So as I was saying, I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find any information about this sprinkler. And eventually I was on the Michigan State University library site, and they have a bunch of old turfgrass magazines and other golf kind of maintenance magazines. And in a 1934 edition of Golfdom magazine, there's an ad for golf course sprinklers, and this guy's actually in the ad and on a roller base. So I am going to call this a sprinkler that was geared for the golf market. The roller base is a dead giveaway for that. Usually these will be for like dragging across a green or pushing out onto a green. And so, so I'm thrilled to know what Skinner had in mind anyway with this thing. It's early. As I mentioned, it was in a 1934 ad. And in a lot of those early rotary sprinklers, there will be a, I don't know, I almost think of it as a box that the water flows through. And inside this orifice here, this vessel, there's a vibratory mechanism that will help control the speed of rotation. The other thing that's very vital to the speed of rotation is the angle at which this inner nozzle is set. And it has a nice slot in it. I don't know if you can see it there, but it makes a really nice rooster tail that you'll see in the video. In any event, the closer to horizontal that nozzle is set at, the faster the sprinkler will rotate. And I think you'll see in the video, you'll see it rotating at a couple of different speeds. I videoed this thing in operation several months apart. Once before I fixed the leaky gasket on this guy, and then once after. I'm happy to say it works flawlessly now, which is pretty good for something that could be 90 to 100 years old at this point. I don't have a whole lot else to say about it. I will have a lot more to say about Skinner, the company, in future videos. I've started to collect a handful of their sprinklers, and I'm just really impressed by the weight of of just the red bronze they used in those things, and the durability and the ingenuity in terms of controlling the speed of rotation. So we'll get into a lot of that. We'll talk about where you would have found them installed and the different applications they had for them. But for now, I would just like to remind you that if you enjoy sprinkler videos, feel free to like this one and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to check out my playlist that has sprinkler videos from other channels that I really enjoy. There's a handful of guys out there regularly putting out content, and some of it's a few years old, but I think you're going to enjoy just seeing the diversity of the styles of videoing the sprinklers, and there's a lot on there that I don't have. Some guys that video really, really massive, like rain guns and Nelson irrigation guns, and really, really big stuff that's cool to watch. The old Rainbird 100B, if you know what that is. So I would encourage you to take a look at that playlist if you like this, and spend time on some of those other channels, subscribe to them, and those guys really put out some good stuff. In any event, let's get right to watching this thing in action.